Summoner's Rift. Seconds until minions spawn.
At its heart, wokeness is divisive, exclusionary, and hateful. It basically gives mean people a reason. It gives them a shield to be mean and cruel, armored in false virtue. At its heart, wokeness is divisive.
And A philosophy that would be ordinarily quite niche and geographically constrained, so the fallout area would be limited, was effectively given an information technology weapon to propagate what is essentially a mind virus to the rest of Earth. And the outcome of that mind virus is very clear if you walk around the streets of downtown San Francisco. It is the end of civilization. A philosophy that would be ordinarily quite niche and geographically constrained, so the fallout area would be limited, was effectively given an information technology weapon to propagate what is essentially a mind virus to the rest of Earth. And the outcome of that mind virus is very clear if you walk around the streets of downtown San Francisco. It is the end of civilization.
We're going to create machines smarter than us. We're going to create molecular machines so that we can basically 3D print any form of matter we want. And we're going to abolish involuntary death and cure aging. It seems very clear. And we're going to abolish involuntary death and cure aging. It seems very clear the super AI will understand things about physics and mind and the universe in general that we don't understand. While Cardano is way, way better than Ethereum.
I've talked about AI obviously with everybody here collectively nonstop for the last few days, so I kind of wanted to jump into some fun questions that I think you'll be able to answer a lot more in depth than a few of the other interviewees. But the first one is simply, with all the advancements,
Right.
it kind of like made me think like if that answer ends up being true, it's like this entire time we were just in one giant bad land. Are you worried about that too have an overall effect on just depression? I mean, we're talking about if we do approach artificial superintelligence, that is going to break and disrupt, what, 95% of the world's population that's religious?
Well, I think that religions have proved very adept at adapting to new realities, actually. I mean, if you look at, I'm not religious and I wasn't raised religious, but I mean, I've read the Bible and the Quran and the works of Baha'u'llah and the Vedas and all this stuff. And if you look at what's literally written in these ancient holy books, it doesn't apply to modern society.
For some reason, the government's always slower than the amount of tech that's being developed.
Well, this is for a few different reasons, and this also is one of the issues we need to think about when considering how to deploy global blockchain-based governance and guidance mechanisms for AI, right? So, I mean, historically, democratic decision-making processes are just way less efficient than more autocratic decision-making processes, right? And you can see why. There's a lot of discussion, there's a lot of debate, factions form, factions merge, parties split. I mean, politics are played in various ways, and then eventually, almost miraculously now and then, some actual decision is made moving things forward. Whereas if you just have an autocrat at the top saying, well, I'll make this call, do this, I'll make this call, do this, I'll make this call, do this. I mean,
It's quicker.
yeah, you can advance way, way, way faster. I mean, this is how Singapore has developed so rapidly, and this is how Deng Xiaoping, quietly revolutionized China, building it from a poor country in the early 80s to a global superpower. And 80% of the people on the planet to be lifted out of poverty to the middle class were in mainland China. This was courtesy of Deng Xiaoping opening up China to capitalism with Chinese characteristics.
State
right?
levels, yeah.
But that's one guy. I mean, in that case, it's not a dictatorship. It's one guy working a bureaucracy, but still there's one visionary leading it, right?
Yeah.
And of course, essentially all successful companies have been that way, right? You've got a Steve Jobs or a Bill Gates, or he wrote a textbook of Marxist sociology, but he merely categorized Marx as the most important sociologist rather than as an ultimate and an invincible source of ultimate truth, right? So he didn't get tenure at University of Oregon. He moved to Rutgers University in New Jersey, which was a more open-minded sociology department. But then, yeah, I was plunged into typical American suburbia, which was a big shock after Eugene, which was sort of a hippie colony. On the other hand, we had a fairly nice town library in the little town in southern Jersey I was living in, and I sort of went through reading every science book in the collection in the library, which wasn't that many. So there was like 3 physics books, 2 linguistics books, blah, blah. But there was one book on what we would now call the singularity, which was the Prometheus Project. My father was the chair of the World Future Society chapter in Philadelphia in the same time frame. So we were just a couple cities away in the same organization of wild-eyed people thinking about the singularity and so forth. But I unfortunately didn't intersect Gerald Feinberg when I was a kid, but I has gone pretty hard in that direction. Working, I mean, there was Hydra, but then there's Milkamita. There's a whole bunch of different technologies for interfacing between Cardano and other blockchains. And then in the EVM world, you have Substrate, which is giving a very nice way to connect together different EVM-based blockchains, and substrate could be extended beyond EVM also, right? So I think doing an AI network that runs across different blockchains is a fairly natural thing in terms of how the blockchain world is evolving now. And I mean, Ethereum still has better tooling and more people on it. I mean, there's more value locked in Ethereum. There's more turnover, right? So that, I mean, there's a reason to be on Ethereum, just culturally and economically, even though the underlying technology is not as solid in my view as you know, Cardano or a load of other blockchains like Elrond. I mean, you could even like NEM, which is not even current anymore, had in many ways a more solid infrastructure, right? But Ethereum, there's a lot of people doing stuff there. Cardano has a fantastic community, and they have an amazing developer team that's developing really cool tools on top of their platform. So I think there's something valuable there. And
Well, how much of like the AI and DePIN sector in crypto is just over speculated, overhyped, and a lot of copy paste API?
I mean, well, certainly, you know, there was a statement by the science fiction writer Theodore Sturgeon in the 60s or 70s. He says, people complain that 95% of science fiction is bullshit, but I mean, 95% of everything people do is bullshit, right? So certainly applies to crypto and to the intersection of AI and crypto. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of plumbing of what you're doing, you want to do to make a really broadly functional phase will be quite brief. And crypto will be
Kind of like the plateau, and then like you were
yeah,
saying
I think. I mean, of course, it's going to go up and down because the token whales manipulating the market effect on different kinds of AI, so that the GPU speeds up matrix multiplication, which is a particular math operation involving vectors of floating point numbers.
And they do that through accelerated computing?
Yeah. So, but they do it through parallel computing, through SIMD, single instruction, multiple data stream computing on the GPU, so NVIDIA GPU or something. So pretty much like if you have say 1,000 processors on your NVIDIA GPU, and you have let's say an image with 100,000 pixels or something, to simplify a lot, you could have each of those 1,000 processors working on 100 pixels at once. So then you're processing the whole image in parallel, right? So this is why GPUs were originally developed, was for graphics. It was to accelerate graphics rendering, you know, for gaming, for porn, right, which has driven a lot of the early internet. So GPUs were developed to do parallel processing of images in various ways, but it turns out they're also useful for deep neural networks. So if you have a neural net with 1 billion nodes, and you have 1,000 processors on your GPU, I mean, so that then you can run 1 million of those nodes in your neural net on each processor, and then you're speeding up the whole thing, right? You're speeding up by not quite 1,000 times, but close to 1,000 times on the 1,000 processors. So, but GPUs are specialized for what are called floating point operations, right? So like the integers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The floating point numbers are all the ones in between, like 1.35222 or something, right? So if you have a vector or an image which is described with floating point numbers, then that's manipulated with matrix multiplication. So a transformer neural net, like the kind underlying GPT-4 or underlying, say, music gen for generating music, when you boil down the math, it all comes down to matrix multiplication, basically, which is an operation on these big vectors. And NVIDIA's GPUs speed that up. So in a certain sense, NVIDIA got really lucky because they developed this technology to speed up graphics.
Yeah.
And then they discovered, well, lo and behold, the same math underlying computer graphics underlies deep neural networks. And so then they found themselves with the hardware to fuel the deep neural net revolution, right? Which is, it's power of mathematics, of course, that the same math operation underlies all these things. Now, when you look at what we're doing in OpenCog Hyperon, which is my own best attempt at an AGI system, or if you look at what's needed to formally verify compute code, be it AI code or be it Plutus smart contracts in Cardano, this is about discrete operations. I mean, when you boil it down in math, it's about operations on the integers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, not on the floating point decimal numbers in between, which is, so, you can think about it because a program is sort of a discrete thing formed of little keywords and parentheses and so on. A computer program does not consist of a bunch of continuous floating point numbers. So if we want to accelerate formal verification of computer programs or AI algorithms besides deep neural nets, like logical reasoning algorithms or evolutionary learning algorithms, which are some of the things we do in OpenCog Hyperon along with neural nets. If you want to accelerate these sorts of things, a chip like the APU by GSI is more effective than a GPU. So I mentioned that one because we're actually working with it on an experimental basis, and it exists. I mean, they've done limited production runs and are doing bigger ones, right? But there's a whole spectrum of hardware innovation. So in True AGI, which is an AI spin-off of SingularityNet, in partnership with Simuli, which is an AI hardware company run by my friend Rachel St. Clair, who's here at the BGI event also. So we've designed a chip especially for basically AI memory retrieval. For what, I mean, technically speaking, it's a chip for pattern matching on metagraphs. So you have a graph knowledge structure, like we use inside OpenCog, or it could be the graph of connectivity in a blockchain, right? And then you want to find stuff in that graph. We designed a chip specialized for that. Now this chip is still in the prototype stage, it's not in production, but my point is, it's not just scaling up NVIDIA GPUs. That's happening, it's very important, but you're going to see a whole flourishing of different specialized hardware designs coming out in the next few years. And then after that, you'll see the quantum chips come out. Right?
Yeah, that was...
Which is not too far off. It's a real thing now.
And it's right there with AGI, but I've worked with a company that uses on-demand correlation matrix data sets to find hidden relationships between stocks, companies, an earthquake in Taiwan, how that affects Bitcoin miners. But the issue that I've seen a lot comes down to storage, because taking that capacity and verifying all of these data points, all of these different random variables, and putting that into rows and columns of data sets just creates a need for an exponential amount of storage, which was going to lead me into everything that you guys are developing. If we approach AGI, is storage even at a capacity today to be able to process these things, or is that within the prototypes?
Storage is not really the bottleneck that we face. I would say for AGI, if you want to look at which aspects of modern computer architecture are the limitation, it's probably the cache RAM, actually. It's not storage, because, I mean, this partly depends on what approach you think will work for AGI, though. So a deep neural net is heavily reliant on floating point math operations, so mostly floating point multiplications and divisions, right? Now, if you're doing the sort of AI that we're doing in the OpenCog project, or if you're trying to do formal verification of smart contracts or something, then most of your code's time is taken up looking stuff up in a large knowledge store in RAM. So the rate limiting factor is actually how fast can you execute queries against RAM, but this largely comes down to your RAM caching policies, right? So how well does the cache work to pull the stuff you're gonna need to access next out of RAM into the RAM cache, and how fast is the cache access? And that's actually more of a limiting factor than availability of storage at the moment, because storage, I mean, disk storage is very, very slow. Like that's the difference between RAM access and disk access is like the difference between looking in your memory and driving to the library to get a book out. It's like 10,000 times slower or something, right? So that, I mean, you do want that backup storage, but that's it's not the worst problem at the moment. But the amazing thing, though, is this, as your initial question alluded, there's an exponential or hyper-exponential speed up in the hardware that we have at our disposal for AI, at the same time as we have an exponential speed up in the availability of data to train the AI, and an exponential increase in the number of people who are thinking about AI and being paid to work on it, right? So we've got a lot of factors converging together, and it's a very interesting synergy with what's happening in the crypto space now. Because so being at the intersection of AI and crypto, as SingularityNet, Hypercycle, NewNet, and so on are at the moment, right? Being at the intersection of AI and crypto, we're at, it's a very interesting point in terms of the market and the economic aspect, because the crypto markets are waking up. Looks like this will probably be a good year for crypto.
Best time to have the convention, by the way. You timed that perfectly.
Well, that was some Nostradamus level prognostication on the part of our team, because I mean, we organized this event like 6 or 8 months ago, right?
Oh, okay.
There was some lead time getting the venue and inviting people, so we were like, Bitcoin halving is coming up, right? Like, probably is going to be a good time. But then the SEC's decision on the Bitcoin ETF was a sort of just random gift from the dark gods, right?
Yeah.
We couldn't predict when that was going to happen.
Oh yeah, as soon as Cointelegraph released that article that was wrong, and then it just sparked in October, and then it didn't stop. But you had also NVIDIA just crushing report after report. So AI
that's what I mean. I mean, the fact that AI will keep booming, to me, is fairly determinate. I mean, it will go up faster, then it will go up a little slower, then it will go up faster. But I don't think we're seeing another AI winter or anything. I mean, I think AI just keeps growing and growing until the singularity. Crypto will keep going up and down by the nature of it, because it is technology driven, and crypto technology keeps getting better and better, but it's also market speculation driven.
Well, how much of like the AI and DePIN sector in crypto is just over speculated, overhyped, and a lot of copy paste API?
I mean, well, certainly, there was a statement by the science fiction writer Theodore Sturgeon in the 60s or 70s. He says, people complain that 95% of science fiction is bullshit, but I mean 95% of everything people do is bullshit, right? So certainly applies to crypto and to the intersection of AI and crypto. I mean, there's a lot of nonsense, and people are just throwing around the term AI to get money for their project, and because they know the market can't look and see what's really AI or what isn't. But I think there's an increasing number of real projects out there using blockchain infrastructure to do AI stuff. My issue with how pretty much every AI meets blockchain project, except the ones in SingularityNet ecosystem, are architected. My issue is more that they tend to build specific AI algorithms too deeply into their protocol. So if you're designing an AI network specifically around deep neural nets and matrix multiplication and training ML models and so forth, I mean, you're sort of overfitting the plumbing of what you're doing to the AI algorithm that happens to be fashionable at this moment, right? So then suppose that 2 years from now, hybrid neural symbolic systems that use logic reasoning and deep learning together are the best approach. Then a blockchain network that is wired to training of neural models to get tokens like into its plumbing, I mean, they'll have to hard fork, they'll have to replace their core architecture. It's not an impossible thing to do, but the choice we made in SingularityNet, Hypercycle, and NewNet from the beginning is to sort of layer it more. so that the core platforms are agnostic to what AI algorithm you're using. And then I do have my own ideas about what AI algorithms are interesting to build on there, but I don't think you should make your core blockchain layer dependent on that. I mean, so if you look at traditional computing, I mean, if NVIDIA had made their initial chips too much specialized for graphics rendering, then they wouldn't have been able to pivot to using their chips as the foundation for deep neural networks, right? So it's because you had some layering in the tech stack where each layer does something that makes sense by its own light, and then what's in the next layer exploits that, but the lower layer isn't hyper specialized to the layer above. And I think most people jumping in now to do AI and blockchain together are not layering things in the way that I think you want to do to make a really broadly functional decentralized tech stack. So like, I mean, BitTensor is a cool project. I'm happy for their success because, you know, the more decentralized AI is out there, the better. But I mean, is tensor math really the end all? I mean, a tensor is a higher dimensional matrix, right? So if you want to do AI for formal verification of smart contracts, it's not about tensors. It's a different sort of math. So then, I mean, you could do it so you have one decentralized network for each algorithm or data structure. So you have like bit tensor, you have bit hypervector, you have bit lambda logic expression or something. But I mean, or you could have an AI algorithm agnostic layer,
which is hypercycle.
Which is, yeah, SingularityNet is built that way, and that's why we can put SingularityNet on hypercycle, right? I mean, we built SingularityNet to be agnostic to what AI algorithm you run on top of it. We also built SingularityNet to be agnostic to what blockchain you run underneath it, right? And so then we could swap out Ethereum for Cardano or hypercycle, and we could run deep neural nets or logic engines or whatever we want on top of it. I mean, but in the end, this is just like software engineering 101, right? I mean, this is not that innovative. The thing is, in the crypto world, software engineering 101 is quite rarely adhered to because, as you allude, the standard development methodology is take someone's code, fork it, remove their name and copyright, launch it as your own thing with an anonymous handle, get people to lock their money in it, then disappear with the money. And I mean, when the default development methodology is like cut and pasting code and half the time not auditing it, right? I mean, this is it's a far cry from the way Amazon and Google are building their tech stacks, right? So I mean, we have been trying to follow proper software design, engineering, and testing methodology, and Cardano, IOG, totally has also, right? And the result of trying to do things right, software engineering-wise, and even going beyond the standard and formally verifying things, the result is that you are not as fast as people who just want to copy-paste fork code and roll shit out as quickly as you can. And the result is major blockchain networks that crash all the time, right? Which, not to name any major blockchain networks.
I couldn't think of any off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Well,
like the economic aspect of like, people thought it was a joke that you'd have a computer in everybody's house. No one was foreseeing how big this industry would be, right? I remember, I forget if it was the CEO of Intel, Honeywell, IBM, but one of these big companies back in the 70s, they said, we think the total demand in the world for computers is about 5 or 10. It's like major military organizations, right? It's like, why does the average person need a computer in their house? What do they have to compute, right? I mean, so that it's historically, common sense has been a poor guide to which companies and which tools are going to become dominant, and visionaries like Tufi have existed at every stage and are identified in hindsight. So what's different, of course, is exponential acceleration, though, right? So I mean, even these things like computing going from 5 computers to billions of computers, or web search going from a bunch of silly little tools to like a global business behemoth, right? I mean, these transitions each took decades. Now we're looking at a comparably bigger transition, potentially taking years, right?
Yeah.
But the funnier thing is, the next major transition after that could take months. Right?
And it's going to
this
accelerate more and more.
This is what singularity means, right?
Yeah. Well, lots to think about, Ben. So thank you for joining us today.
Thanks
It's been
a
an
lot.
absolute pleasure having you, and thank you for inviting us down to Panama.
Yeah. Thanks for coming. It's been a pleasure to be in a different location for one of the.
I've talked about AI obviously with everybody. It actually turns into a variable of us living in a simulation.
Are you asking? Then you have a world economy where access to resources like compute time and raw materials from the ground and robots for building stuff is gated by this formally verified infrastructure. So even if you have some rogue bunch of terrorists or some AI that goes berserk, it can't break the security of the global infrastructure because you've proved that it's secure, right? And you know, in a way, I like this direction. One of the things that attracted me to Cardano blockchain originally was they formally verified their Ouroboros consensus algorithm. Like they used a mathematical